Krodha bhavati sammoho, sammoho smriti vidhrama, smriti brahmash, smriti brahmash. That means when the anger comes and and the anger turns to delusion, and your memory, the smriti bhrama, the smriti brahmasta buddhinasta pranashyati. That means when this anger turns to delusion, and when delusion turns to bewilderment of memory, and when memory is bewildered, intelligence is totally lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. You see how Krishna is building the case of the object of senses turning into lust, then turning into anger, then turning into delusion, turning into bewilderment, and turning into the loss of intelligence. And so beautifully, Krishna is saying it is just the outbound aspect which is actually ruining the person. And that is where this verse is just opposite. And Krishna is giving such power, uh, such power by putting a lot of emphasis on looking inbound, and how a person should look inbound. And that is where this verse, Krishna is saying, Yadahine indriyan tritsu nakarmasa anusajyate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudha taduchyate. That means you have to, when a person is said to be elevated in yoga, then he renounces all material desires, and he thinks inbound. He thinks inbound. His senses are inbound, and that is the Ashtanga Yoga principle Krishna is talking about here, as to why a person should look inwards. Because for you, the world is not going to change. There will be craving all the time. The world is not going to change. The rasgullas will be made, and there will be people who will be, exposing, and there will be obvious attraction. But and this is the medicine Krishna is giving as to why you have to look inbound, why you have to control the senses, or rather, and Prabhupada has taken it to a different level. So we'll get to that. But essentially, so Krishna is explaining the importance of senses looking outwards. And then he is explaining the eightfold yoga system in this verse as to why, this Ashtanga yoga process, the eight process, the do's and don'ts, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. The pranayama basically is a culmination of you inhale and you retain the air, so the air can get cap, and you then exhale. So that means you are basically controlling the wind going into your body, and that's where some of the other principles have very importantly explained the aspect of pranayam in our lives. And that is where, when this COVID was going on, and people had a lot of breathless problems. But the people who had this physical exercise of pranayam, which where you're inhaling and you're retaining the air and then you're exhaling, they didn't have much difficulty because their muscles, their lungs muscles, they were all tuned to it. And that is where Krishna is talking about this fourth principle in the Ashtanga Yoga. And then you are basically, you're withdrawing your senses. That means you are not tuned to, what is happening in the sides, the disturbances which has been put forth. So it is the pratyahara. And then you do, and your all sensual engagement stops with dharana. And then you meditate to discover the soul and super soul. And then you're totally in a trance, which tells you that you are in samadhi and you're ready to leave the body. And that is where some of the very mahatmas, or some of the people who have controlled the senses, they have eventually left the body without much craving for the material life. Because you'll see that there will be people who will be leaving the body, and there'll be a lot of crying, and they don't really do not want to leave the body. They're not in a position. So that's why it is mentioned that life is a preparation, death is examination, and no one knows the examination date. And we have to prepare, actually. And this is just an example of why Krishna is saying this Ashtanga Yoga process is such an important thing. Actually, our body is a temple which is actually used for serving the Supreme. If our body, which is a temple, is not in a proper shape, there is a lot of dirt, then we will not be able to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, which is why it is essential for us to keep our body in perfect shape, so that we want to, serve and work on our on our spiritual sadhana. And the main purpose of controlling senses is essentially to advance in spiritual realization. But now people are using it for the wrong reasons, and they want to build their muscles and they want to show off. But essentially, the purpose of controlling the senses is to really make it inbound, make not to have the senses go out, which turns into lust, anger, delusion, lack of knowledge, intelligence falling. It's not that. So you have to look inbound, and that is where Krishna is talking about a technique where he's giving in chapter 2 the problems in looking outbound, and now how to take the shape of thinking about controlling the air within our body inbound, so that we we are in a perfect situation to absorb um, the knowledge, and that is why. So it takes a lot of time to master. But this example, what we're trying to give you, is essentially has to do with our Krishna consciousness process, which Prabhupada has laid out so beautifully. What Prabhupada has said is we have to be regulated. And why did he say that? And secondly, uh, and Prabhupada has said many times that this process I'm giving you, this process of chanting and all of that, is essentially to make sure that you improve in in the level of consciousness we have. So that means this is a science. Prabhupada makes it a science. And where does the science get processed? The science happens in a laboratory. In a laboratory, the science takes place. And when the laboratory is clean, the output of the result is validated and there is no impurities, and then there is something which makes sure the results are proper and the results can be validated. If the laboratory is in a bad shape, is dirty, then whatever experiment you end up doing, the outcome will not be great. The outcome will be have a scope for errors. So that's the reason why these regulation, Srila Prabhupada said, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, is essentially to cleanse our body, essential to make sure that the place, the lab in which this experiment of Krishna consciousness, which is a science, is being done, the testing has been done, can be done in such a way that the outcome is perfect. And so essentially the regulation is is actually a byproduct of everything. It's not the main product. The main product is to make sure that you follow the principles what Srila Prabhupada has laid down, devotional service, the ABCDs and things like that. And then you apply that, those concepts and theories which Srila Prabhupada has so nicely put in a scientific way into a lab setting. And that lab setting is nothing but to stay regulated with those four basic things, so that the outcome of the process is good. So that's the real purpose. And the technique which Krishna is talking about here is the Ashtanga Yoga process. See, the intent is to make our body or mind or senses clean, so that Krishna can live with us. If our situation is not good, if we are not regulated, we are dirty in our thought process or dirty in our action, we eat anything, we think about conning others through this process of gambling, or having cruelty for animals by trying to have meat, and then are dirty in our interaction with other people for our senses. It's not a good lab condition for to apply those chanting, to apply those principles of devotional service we are doing. It will never yield a good result. That's the reason why it's very, very important to keep a good tab on our food habits, a good tab on our attitude in terms of whether we are made to con others, in the form of gambling, or stay very simple in our thought process, be clean in our approach. So this is the lab setting, and likewise, the Ashtanga Yoga is a pure lab process. So the lab has to be made clean so that the application of Krishna consciousness in the form of a higher taste or a devotional service or chanting can truly be impregnated properly. If we end up doing all this wrong things in terms of eating meat, for example, having intoxication, for example, then obviously the results will not be right. So whenever the doctor gives us the medicine, the doctor says, you need to eat this medicine under these conditions. You cannot eat the medicine at any way you want or any way you desire. So in order for the medicine to really work properly, it has to be the right atmosphere has to be there in the body so that the medicine behave properly. Likewise, Krishna consciousness is a beautiful medicine which needs to be applied on a situation where we are clean. So here Krishna is saying we have to do the Ashtanga yoga. And that is when we realize that here Krishna is talking about the soul and super soul in this way, that we are the soul, and but there is a super soul. We are part and parcel of, and Krishna is the super soul. So when there is something supreme or super, then there has to be an element of surrender. If somebody is very strong, and for example, Ramji, for example, he was very strong, and Ravana didn't yield, and finally, what happened? He had to finally get killed because the situation is the Krishna is part and parcel. We are part and parcel of the Supreme, and at the same time, this aspect of loving someone starts with surrender. If there is no surrender, there is no love, and that's the reason why the starting process of devotional service is starts with surrender. So that's where Krishna mentions something very beautiful here in 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesam madgatentara atmana shraddhavan bhajate yoma same yukta tamomata. That means of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So essentially, if we have got a real uh, baseline or a or something where we can take Krishna consciousness, and it should start with surrender. If it doesn't start with surrender, what happens is there will be always confusion in our lives, and it will not lead us to the right spiritual path. So that's why, as Krishna is residing in our heart as super soul, super, that means he is supreme, then there should be no doubt in our mind to surrender to him. And and once the aspect of surrender starts, then the devotional process is immediately triggered. And that's where Srila Prabhupada, in an interview from his disciples, you might have seen that video, he says, if you really want to liberate yourself, it can just take 1 minute, just 1 minute, the 1 minute where you just surrender. And that 1 minute is very difficult for many people. Oh, why should I surrender? I have lived all my life with big degrees and I have been making a lot of money. Why should I surrender? Because I want to do something outside of this Krishna consciousness, and I want to earn some name, fame, and this and that. So, and that's why this ahankar, the false ego, what we have, doesn't make us surrender. But there are people who have everything in their lives, but they have understood the true essence of Krishna consciousness, and they have surrendered right within a minute. And you might have seen that video which Srila Prabhupada, he just says 1 minute. It doesn't take more than a minute to understand that. So so of all the people who render devotional service is very dear to me. And Shraddhavan bhajate yama, that means Krishna is saying. So the soul which we are the soul, we are not the body. We are inferior than the super soul, and super soul is definitely superior. And the perfection of yoga is seeing Krishna in the heart. If we do not cleanse our heart properly, we will not be seeing Krishna with us, because Krishna, with so much of sense gratification, with so much of desire to enjoy, will not make us see Krishna in our heart. In order to invite Krishna, like sometimes when you have some of your best friends come to your house, you clean the house and you arrange the sofa, and once you arrange everything, then they, when you invite them, then you have a good discussion. So likewise, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is is approaching us, he wants to be in our hearts. But if our heart is not clean enough, then we will never be able to invite him to reside, make a residence for him in our hearts. And once we have done that, the perfection of yoga has happened. What is the perfection of yoga? The perfection of yoga is seeing Krishna in the heart and seeing Krishna with everyone. And that's nothing but Uttamadhikari, right? So whenever we talk about Kanishtavadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Uttamadhikari, what is Uttamadhikari? Uttamadhikari is someone who sees Krishna in everyone, and Madhyamadhikari is someone who sees Krishna in his devotees and in the deities. And the Kanistadhikari is someone who sees Krishna only in temples. In the house, once he leaves the temple, for him there is no Krishna. So more and more refinement as we progresses, as we progress in our life, will enable us to make our. So this is a journey. This Krishna consciousness is not something which is a beginning or an end. It's a journey. We are all are in different exits in this journey, and then the end game is essentially to have a loving relationship with the Supreme. And in our various different ways in which we are situated right now, we are seeing things a bit differently. And all this, the discussions we're doing in the evening and in the morning, is an attempt to see Krishna in the heart, is an attempt to see Krishna in the heart. And sometimes we are in a good shape, and sometimes whenever we do not have a good day, we try our best to get back to where we want to be. So the inferior always surrenders to the superior, and that's nothing but Saranagati, right? And the surrenders, when the intent to surrender starts, the devotion starts after that time. And then we may be serving a lot of people, serving our family, serving our country, but that's like your extended family. But the real serving is serving beyond any preconceived notions. So it's very important that we don't stay narrow-minded within the country, family per se, and truly look inside and try to serve the Supreme. So whenever a person is in the house, and if the glass is half filled, so he has an opportunity to mix something which is not good, say for example alcohol, for example, and that can take him to the direction of alcoholism. But if the glass is full, there is no place to put alcohol. The person is fully filled to the brim in various different services, various different activities, then he or she will never resort to anything wrong. That's the reason why the human being, the tendency is to do something. The human being will definitely do something. If they say empty mind is devil's workshop. So if the mind is empty, if the glass is empty, if the intent is empty, all the junk can go in there in the form of alcohol in a glass, or in the form of an empty mind being the devil's workshop, or anything for that matter. But if you have filled your life with devotional service, for example, if your life is filled with trying to do garland, trying to do chanting, trying to hear katha, just for the sake of hearing katha, and then doing some service, doing some cleaning in the temple, doing some activity. That's the reason why devotional service is the topmost thing, because it doesn't let you get into an empty mind. And that is what Krishna is saying in the summary, that that uh, that a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts in sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So before, some of you who may have taken to Krishna consciousness, all of you had your Friday get-togethers or having some engagements. You had opportunity to enjoy the fruitive activities. But after you have taken to Krishna consciousness, I'm sure all those things are gone from your lives, because your life is filled with the topmost knowledge, filled with topmost service. That's the reason why you never crave for them. That's the reason why Pratla Prabhupada has indicated that once the sense gratification and fruitive activities leaves, then the same person who is behaving differently will behave absolutely in a totally uh, perfect stage, and that is nothing but a gradual perfection of yoga. So anytime we nowadays, say for example, if you are totally into Krishna consciousness and most of the time you are doing service, there is no time remaining for you to really think of anything else. And that's the reason why you have to make a slight decision, and that decision can be taken in a minute. So, so here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is cleaning the Gundicha temple, so that when the Gundicha temple is cleaned properly, then Lord Jagannath, who is none other than Lord Krishna, can come and reside in Gundicha temple, which is nothing but Vrindavan, for 7 days before he goes back to the main temple. So when Lord Jagannath comes to this Gundicha temple, which is the Vrindavan, and Vrindavan, when Krishna is not there, is filled with cobwebs, Yashodama is crying, Radharani's eyes are filled with tears, feeling the separation. And when Krishna is coming, the entire the kitchen is has not been cooked. They're taking minimal items, so it's in a very bad shape. So when you are inviting the Lord, the intent is to clean properly, which is essentially equivalent to the four regulative principles. In the corollary being, you make the place clean so that the Lord can come and stay in our hearts. And so Gundicha Marjan is not, so in the so everything in Krishna consciousness has an external meaning and an internal meaning. The external meaning may be to basically get rid of cobwebs, clean. 500 years ago, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to get, and his associates used to get pots and pots of water from the Indradumna tank, which is near the Gundicha temple, to clean. And the more you get rid of the dirt, the more points, brownie points, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to give to his associates. As you can see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually cleaning the Ratna Bedi of Lord Jagannath in the Gundicha temple right there. And and the internal meaning is, if we um, if we clean our hearts, then the Lord of the universe will get an opportunity to come and reside in the heart. And that's the internal meaning of Gundicha Marjan. And that's where Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Braja Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshami Masucha. That means Masucha means don't fear. If so, and this is where Krishna says, abandon all kind of religion. The religion which gets us to a karma kanda, the religion which gets us to a certain faith. So Krishna is saying, you don't have to follow any religion, just surrender. And 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 Krishna is confidently telling, don't fear, Krishna will deliver. So essentially, this verse is all about having a higher taste for devotional service, so that the fruitive activities and the material cravings will go from our life, and we will sincerely resort to a way of life, because Krishna consciousness is not a product or anything, it's a way of life. The more and more we take to Krishna consciousness, more and more of those anarthas, or so-called craving for materialism, will go away from our life, and that really helps us in becoming or advancing more and more in the spiritual path of Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much for giving me a listen, and like to hear more from you about your comments and reflections. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Anu Mataji, you have a question?
Oh, sorry, by mistake. I I don't know how it happened, but it was a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Dharma Pranam, Hare Krishna. Now I was listening about the internal and external energy of Lord Krishna, and I've just been out for a walk, listening, and just like you say that how you differentiate like into the activities what can be the external energy and what is the internal energy. So when you keep the house clean to welcome, but also I was thinking in my mind, like even to teach kids the basic understanding of uh, what is how, like even the kids who are learning Bhagavad Gita, they can also given a kind of an activity like to draw the the external and internal activities that you do in a daily basis. So even I'm doing that myself. So just by addressing our own action into daily lives can be useful, and how to what actions can be useful to come closer to Krishna, towards bhakti. So even though we are all in a karma kanda by some reasons, been catered to for different duties and responsibilities, but how to convert those into the practices which can be useful for to come closer for our internal bhakti, which increase internal bhakti and come close towards Krishna. That's all, Prabhuji.
Yes. So good points, Mataji. We are all in different phases of Krishna consciousness, and we all are trying in our because day-to-day life you have to go to a job. Everybody has to earn their living to kind of maintain a livelihood. So that's the reason why, in whatever capacity we can, we have to increase Krishna consciousness, and after increasing Krishna consciousness, I'm sure some of you will agree that the happiness in our life comes back because we feel good about. Initially, it will definitely be very fulfilling, but as we stay regulated based on some of the practices, which are mentioned by our acharyas, we feel that we are, from health wise, we are feeling better, from a thoughtfulness, mindfulness, we're feeling better, and as all the scriptures are lining up in our mind, actually, once upon a time, we had our own way of understanding these various different folk kathas, and we used to call it mythology. And then once we start reading scriptures, we realize it's no more a myth. So it's no more mythology. These are the past times which were so, and then we start relating to it and derive some element of bliss, and hopefully by taking to devotional service, our ability to have an empty mind will go away, and soon we'll have something very positive to, because during COVID time, for example, the positivity is something which kind of thrived, and devotional service is not about discussing about one another. It's all about dovetailing everything to the Supreme. So it has a lot of benefit, and you rightly said that in whatever capacity we all are trying to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I also wanted to add that there are some, like we say that sometimes when we talk, I know the time is short and we try to adapt things as soon as possible. But there is another aspect which I see where people like compel to do this, and there's no other way, this is it. And I think with that understanding also, when people withdraw very easily like that, so just being like where they are, from where they're coming from, and also like being understanding the life structure and all that, also giving them a prescription like this can be doable and what can be done. So I think what you just said is narrating the stories. Even thinking, I'm a teacher, Prabhuji, so my mind goes towards kids all the time. Like if like giving them an activity like this, doing archana, or eating by sitting down, eating when not talking, or doing some menial walking and some yoga, which can help you to, uh, to be healthy by eating healthy. So where the Ayurveda comes in. So all those short stories can be categorized as a topics for the kids like that, and they can also read and understand easily the by theme, as you're saying. Asian stories can be very beneficial to make our points very clear. Like, I'm sorry, I'm deviating because it's my passion to teach kids, and like my ideas come through that when I'm listening and doing my teaching. Also, I'm trying to implement myself before I say it loud. But I think even Ayurveda, where Lord Dhanvantare, like Lord Vishnu himself, like have given this prescription to be kind to yourself, to your body, to your health, and how to align your body. As yesterday Amrinath Prabhuji said about definition of yoga is to you align yourself towards atma, where not you doing acrobatic exercise, but little understanding of pranayam, sitting into dhyana and thinking of Lord all the time. So that is our yoga, where we can, put things, and with the short stories can be helpful. So thank you, Prabhuji. I don't
Absolutely.
know if
Yes,
I'm
yes.
making sense of.
No, no, it does. It does. Actually, in our childhood, most of us may have read Amar Chitra Katha or anything of that matter. Even I remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's comics, nice Amar Chitra Katha comics were available where I was growing up. And I still remember that vivid picture where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, when he is playing with his kids, and then when he sees the sky, and in the sky, seeing the blue sky, he sees Krishna and he goes senseless. And right, 40, 50 years ago, it really caught the imagination of some of us. And when we hear all this current pastimes, which it was not available at that time, we could relate. So any aspect of storytelling which catches people's or kids' attention will definitely be helpful someday or other. And I sincerely can relate to that. Okay. Any other
Thank
question
you.
or comment? Thank you, Bharat.
Thank you, Hema Jaganath Praji. It was profound, wonderful, lots of wonderful details. Thank you so much for a very nice class. Yeah, I mean, if anybody else has anything to add, any reflections, questions, comments, concerns, please go ahead. This is the time to discuss if you have anything. Anybody has any questions? Any comments? Well, check everybody. Okay. So let's. There is nothing else. Then let's conclude.
Yes.
Yeah. So few announcements. As Proji mentioned in the lecture, the internal cleanliness and external cleanliness, it should be aligned. Process is for both purpose. Internal cleanliness and the external cleanliness. Krishna consciousness helps to do that. So when you engage in loving devotional service to Krishna, it happens both external as well as internal. So this Saturday is, we set it as Kundicha Marjan at the temple. This we marked in the calendar when we designed the calendar at the beginning of the year. And this Saturday, July 10th, is set in the morning, 9 to 12, is the cleaning the temple. So this is cleaning the temple is considered as the Pada Sevanam. Pada Sevanam means worshipping the Supreme Lotus feet of the Lord. So we humbly request everybody please join in this wonderful, loving devotional service to Krishna. So devotees will be there to lead the various, corners of the temple, outside the temple, inside the temple halls, reorganize, arranging so that everything will be clean. We don't want to worship the Lord in such a, lot of dust and so many things. So it's very important that we take that initiative and that service. We'd humbly request, please join this Saturday at 9 o'clock at the temple so that we can clean nicely. That's one thing. And also this Sunday is our Rath Yatra, actual Rath Yatra. This is also the same time the on Jaganath Puri Rath Yatra is also happening. So we'd also humbly request, it's going to start at 4 p.m. and there is a registration link, send it out. So if you are not registered yet, please register so that we will come to know how many counts, so that we can prepare the prasadam and everything else accordingly. So if we know that how many devotees are coming and will be there, it'll be very easy for us to organize. So thank you. Please register if you are not done it. Also join on Sunday, 4 o'clock, and it's a nice festival. There'll be a pahandi, and then welcoming Lord to the cart. Then nice bhoga offering, and then the devotees pull the cart around the temple 3 times, and every year is a beautiful, beautiful festival. So wonderful. Lots of prasadam, and we'll have some nice, wonderful kirtan and maybe some presentations and things like that. So please join on a Sunday, and also following week, next Saturday, not this Saturday, is Atlantic City Rath Yatra. So please join that as well. We'll have wonderful parade. Jaganath is going to Atlantic City and seeing the people around, and we will pull the Jagannath to the Sundarachala, and there, that is mid of the boardwalk. It's called Kennedy Plaza. Their Lord will give the darshan too, and every year we serve almost more than 1,000, prasadam box or prasadam. So a lot of people joins. So please join next Saturday as well. It's going to start at 2 o'clock from the New Jersey Avenue. So New Jersey
Prabhuji,
Avenue.
sorry.
Yeah.
Are there any buses going this time to Atlantic City?
I think we'll still have to confirm because we announced it. I think that there is not enough, participants for the bus, and we'll confirm.
I didn't. Oh, okay. Because I didn't see anything for the bus for Atlantic City yet.
Right. Yeah, our Sankarshan Prabhu sent a note out in the Jabathon group, and if anybody is interested, and send him a message personally, and then we didn't hear anything back after that. What I am guessing is that we didn't have enough, devotees to book a bus. Yeah, we'll confirm that. We'll confirm.
I can call and check with him.
Just
Thank
check
you,
with
Prabhuji.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that.
thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks.
Yeah, and yes, many devotees are going via van or car, or many devotees can carpool, or in that case, from medicine area from this, for instance, South Brunswick area, like that. We have lots of service as well. Please join. And Jayaprakash will be also there. Jayaprakash will start cooking early morning, maybe Saturday morning. Please join with Jayaprakash for cooking as well. And then there is various stalls will be there. And so, Jayaprakash, you are on mute. Would like to say something?
Yeah, Hari Bol Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. This Sunday, for the actual day Rath Yatra, we're going to start cooking at 10 o'clock at the temple.
Okay.
And for Atlantic City Rath Yatra for July 17th, we're going to start right after the Mangalarati in the morning. So if anybody wants to join.
Yes, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's very nice. So please join in these various services. Dear devotees, these opportunities, this is millions of lifetime after these opportunities are coming to us. So Jaganath is most, it's very rare and most fortunate that if anybody does any service to Lord Jaganath is considered as the Lord of this age of Kali Yuga. Lord Jaganath, the Lord of this age of Kali Yuga. And that's the Lord. Lord Jaganath means Lord of the universe. And if anybody does any service to the Lord, it's very, very, very fortunate. And these all opportunities are only by the mercy of the Lord. Humbly request, don't miss all these opportunities. So please join. And I think that's announcements for now. And also we do have this Shravan festival every Sunday morning. But I think next 2 more sections will be there. Next 17th and 18th and 25. Next, no, right? Let's see, 12th and 19th, I believe, right?
11th and 18th.
Sorry, 11th and 18th. Yeah. Sorry, I was always thinking 11th is Saturday. Yeah, 11th and 18th. Yes, correct. So next week is Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, and after that Sachinandan Maharaj is Holiness. His Holiness Purushottam Maharaj, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, and Sachinandan Maharaj. They are all wonderful, such a realized personalities. Just hearing them itself, very purifying. So don't miss. Last week we had Gaurang Prabhu. So nice about the Jagannath Puri, the glorification of Jagannath Puri temple. It was such an amazing lecture. Such an amazing, topic. So you were supposed to discuss on the glories of Jagannath Ashtagam, but this was very appropriate because of we just, I've been there in Jagannath Puri a couple of times, and what we see or what we understand is just, just little tip of the iceberg about the Jagannath Puri. So it was quite profound. If you are not joined last week, I think the video is on the YouTube. Please go and watch it. It's so nice. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, we are also planning. Puneet Prabhu, you wanted to announce about the book distribution?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, like we were talking yesterday, this Saturday, asking devotees to go out for the book distribution, and we have places in mind. So, the Patel at Route 27, and then Apna Bazaar here in South Brunswick, and then there is also Patidar, and so if devotees in addition can go out there by Apna Bazaar in addition, that would be also great. I've spent some time looking for these bags. I think I should be able to get something soon. And if I do, I'll bring it up on Saturday at the temple in the morning. And so that's one. And then books are out there. If anybody needs any books, if which they cannot find, let me know. I can definitely point out, or I can start, looking for myself. So that's another one. And so that's what I have for now, Prabhuji. And then, as in how things progresses, we'll We'll work on details.
Yeah, I would also humbly request keep this book distribution afternoon so that devotees can, if like to join in the Gundija March, and they can participate in the temple. And after that, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock evening time, when the crowd is there, people can go for a couple of hours. Medicine area and this South Brunswick area, so the devotees are around. We can put a table and distribute books. And we are also planning a Nagara Sankirtan on 24th. So the details will be sent out. So yeah, thank you, Coach.
Haribol.
Haribol, Jai, wonderful. Okay, so anything else? Anybody has any questions? Okay, yes. Let's conclude then. Thank you, Hema Jaganath Prabhu, for a wonderful class. Let's conclude praying and saying. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu
evacha
patitanam
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo Vaishnavavrinda ki jai Bhagavad Gita ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai Hari Hari Bo. Thank you, Hema Jagannath Prabhuji. Wonderful.